Hi, welcome to Healthy for Life. I'm Dr. Scott McCann, the Director of Education with the Santa Barbara County Public Health Department, and this is my very cool co-host.
I'm Jacqueline Nielsen, Health Center Administrator for the Public Health Department, and Healthy for Life is about promoting healthy behaviors and preventing health problems.
And this is the first of a two-part show on family planning and contraception, or birth control. Very important topic. We've got so much to talk about. We're going to split it into two shows.
Two shows, and I can't think of anything more important than bringing in a new family member or preventing that. So I'm glad we're going to split it into two shows.
It's a huge responsibility, as most people know. Having children, probably the biggest responsibility most people will have in their life. And we want people to be ready to have children when they do, so they can provide the best quality of life possible for their children.
Exactly. It is a huge responsibility, and we want to make sure people are prepared and that they have the knowledge to get them prepared.
So I want to encourage people to watch the show, but also warn you that we're going to be talking about reproductive organs and sexual activities associated with pregnancy. So if that might bother you or somebody watching with you, you can tune to another channel and come back. But I really encourage you to stay and watch, because if you might be a grandparent or a parent, and you can help immensely talking to your children about contraception and the importance of family planning. Or you might be a teenager or a young person and want this information directly for yourself. So stay tuned if you can. We'll talk about myths, some statistics. And both of us were talking earlier about how people in our lives, whether it was our parents or teachers, made such a powerful difference in our lives and valuable help by telling us about contraception and family planning issues.
Yeah, I can remember clearly my high school health education teacher talking about the responsibilities of having sex, not even just being a parent, but just having sex. And if you are not comfortable talking to that person, if you're not comfortable looking at them in the nude, in their birthday suit, then you're definitely not ready to have sex yet. And it's a responsibility, and it can be very uncomfortable, but if you're not at those stages where you can even talk to somebody about your sexual preferences or what you would like to do or not do, then you might not be ready to actually have sex.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think the privacy about sex that makes sense has been exaggerated into a secrecy, or not even talking about responsible sexual behavior like contraception, disease prevention, pelvic exams, all the things you need to do to take care of yourself.
Yeah, that it's taboo.
Right,
That
exactly.
our culture doesn't support it, when in fact there are a lot of resources out there for us to go to find more information.
So we'll be talking about that. I think the more open the subject matter, the better. Everyone will benefit. In fact, we're going to give some statistics here. Most people are shocked to hear that half of the pregnancies in the United States are unplanned. People getting pregnant when they're not planning to, or by accident, if you will.
Which is a huge number. You would think,
It is.
I mean, 50%, that's 1 out of 2.
It's amazing, especially when you know that there are so many birth control methods out there that can be used and are low cost in some cases. So then the question is, why don't people use birth control when they're having sex?
Exactly. And
What do you think?
You know, I think that there's the heat of the moment. People might forget, or they weren't planning on having sex, and there was an opportunity, because sex can be an opportunity, is knocking at the door, and people just aren't ready for it, because you can't plan for everything.
And there's no question, we have the biological drive to reproduce. So hormones and your brain and your body saying, do it, and whether you're ready or not, in a sense. So that's why we want to bring this to a conscious level. And people
Absolutely.
saying, I've decided I'm ready to have sex. I'm going to use contraception if you don't want to have children at this point. And so it's not just an unplanned, irrational thing you do.
No, it shouldn't be.
Yeah, because it's so important. So much at stake here.
And then sometimes people will plan, and then they will use some form of contraception, but it fails them. That could be another
problem. That's right. Every birth control method has some degree of failure rate. Pretty small with some of the methods we'll talk about, but some more than others. And then using it properly, if you know how to use it, which is what we're going to talk about. I think one other factor is people aren't comfortable talking about it. And so we want to encourage you by modeling this open discussion.
That's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about it, make people more comfortable with hearing information and knowing that it's okay to talk about it.
And I've heard young people, I'm embarrassed to buy condoms. And well, if you go to one of our county clinics or another family planning clinic, that's what they're there for. They're there to help you be responsible in your sexual behavior. They don't judge you about, oh, you're getting condoms or other birth control. In fact, if they do judge you, they think you're being smart and responsible.
The public health facilities, whether it's our healthcare centers or community clinic or Planned Parenthood, they're there to make you, allow you to have support in your decision. Whether it's to have sex protected or to try to get pregnant, we're there, and we're not to judge you. We're there just to support you and inform you.
And I have to mention, we talked earlier about the media is not really our friend in general. The depictions of sexual behavior and the lack of consequences, both pregnancy, STDs, and others, is misleading for people. James Bond is my favorite example because he has sex with just about every woman he meets.
And it's cool.
And it's cool. And he never gets an STD. He never gets anyone pregnant when they didn't plan to. And he never talks about birth control.
The media does do some things, maybe not media, but there are a lot of commercials, advertisement. The Trojan Man. Everybody knows that one.
I've seen more than they used to have.
And some of the hormonal contraceptions, like the pill, the NuvaRing, those things have a lot of publicity in terms of the commercials and advertisement. And there are other shows that are out there, reality-based, like the ones that are featuring teen pregnancy. There are a lot of those, giving educational awareness and experiences to the viewers, not only about the problems that it can create, but also some of the positive things, because bringing in a life to the world should be positive.
Well, here's a good example. Some good news. 84% of teenagers use birth control the first time they have sex. And many people would think it's much less than that. And to me, that's great. In the past, maybe 10 years ago, it was in the 60-70% range. So it's going in the right direction. There's some statistics that we're talking about. But again, it's not newsworthy if it's not a problem. But this is such a positive trend. I'm very excited to see it.
So that's interesting. So teen pregnancy is actually declining, it kind of sounds like, which you would think opposite with all the new shows about teen pregnancy.
Right. In fact, statistically, there are fewer teen pregnancies than there were 10 years ago, and that's very exciting. And it's largely because kids are using birth control more.
Which is smart.
Yeah. Well, and there's some great programs. We're going to mention this one several times. The Family Pack program that the Public Health Department clinics offer, Planned Parenthood, other clinics offer it, is basically it provides free contraception and other reproductive health services for young people.
And if you, in our state, if you were 12 or older, you can go to any of those healthcare centers like ours or the community clinics without your parent. So if you were a younger child, you can go there and not be worried about your caregiver, your mom or your dad finding out.
Because I think that is a barrier for some young people. They're afraid their parents will find out. It's kind of ironic, that parents obviously know people are sexual as they develop. They just don't want to face it with their kids. And so, or they want to try to stop their sexual activity, which again, nature's fighting that. We're going to talk about some ways, I think, to help young people delay sexual activity until they're ready. But not talking about it is not the way to do it.
It's not the way to do it. And parents need to educate their children and feel comfortable to talk to them. Even if you choose that they should not have sex, you at least need to talk to them, because eventually they'll be an adult. Before you know it, they're going to be an adult longer than they're going to be your child, and they have their decisions to make. So even if they're not going to make them until after they're out of your house, the more familiar and comfortable they are talking to you, the more comfortable they'll be talking to their partners or their friends or their teachers, and going and getting the education and the preventative measures that they need.
And if you can't talk to them, maybe your parent, either a grandparent could, or an aunt or an uncle,
or
some trusted adult who's going to give them factual information. Or you can go to the clinic
or
and
take them to the
they
healthcare
provide
center
a lot of
and
education.
Come with the child.
That's
ideal. Schedule an appointment, come with the child or the teen or the young adult, bring them in, learn with them, ask questions with them. Then they'll know that it's not just them that doesn't know stuff, or they're not the most informed, that it's you and the child or you and the parent together learning.
Exactly.
Which is a
and
really
if,
good
if you
experience.
create that open environment with your child or young person, they're going to be more open with you and ask for help when they need it.
And that can only strengthen your relationship.
Of course, yeah.
And make them more responsible.
Right, and I'm glad you said it, because some parents are afraid if they talk about anything sex related, their kid will run out and have sex. Young people will have sex whether you want them to or not at some point. If you have an open, honest discussion about it, they're actually more likely to wait. And knowing about birth control doesn't increase sexual activity. It actually has the opposite effect. It makes you more cautious and conservative in your sexual behavior.
And the more you know, the less the myths and the little unknown little stories about pregnancy and what causes it and what doesn't cause it can just go out the door. You know the facts, and then you can make those decisions knowing that, oh, if I do A, B, and C, D is going to follow. If I have sex without a condom or without protection, the chances of me
creating a pregnancy
or an STI or STD are really high.
Right. Right. So you got to have the open discussion. Now, another interesting fact, counter to what a lot of people believe, is that 17 is actually the average age of first sexual intercourse in this country. And when I tell people that, they go, really? I thought it was 14 or 15, because, again, the media focuses on the extreme cases and the younger people. And certainly some young people do, but the average is 17, which means some people wait longer, 18 or 19.
And I was shocked when we read that, because thinking and seeing all the media things, I thought it would be younger. You know, you do see teenagers dressing a little more mature than before, even in junior high. So I just kind of made that assumption that they were experiencing sexual things at a younger age as well. But seeing that at 17, something about education and exposure, even if it's media being positive or negative, is getting to be maybe more curious and open about talking at it and letting them make those decisions.
I think so, and that's a goal. Now, again, I don't want to minimize the problem. The U.S. has the highest teen birth rate of any developed country in the world. And in fact, teen mothers have more birth and pregnancy complications than older mothers, young adult or older adult mothers. So that's one thing. And if you want to give your baby the best chance, because babies suffer too with early pregnancies, often because the mother's bodies aren't fully developed, their nutrition's not as good, they're just not ready to have a baby and get the good prenatal care and all of that. So if you care about your baby's well-being, you're going to want to wait till you're a little older and be ready for that.
And another burden of teen pregnancy is the cost. Forget the emotional, forget the physical, the financial piece, which is really heavy.
10 to 15,000 just to have a baby in a hospital setting.
That's most new cars, or first cars, I should say.
Good luck, with that. And then, of course, child care if you're going to work or go to school. Diapers, formula, all the associated
all of
costs.
That. And then all of your social activities kind of get put on the side.
Births are, so we know there were 640 teen births in Santa Barbara County. That's 19 and under in 2010. Estimates are about double that for the number of pregnancies, because between young people who choose to have abortions or have miscarriages, it's probably more like 1,200 pregnancies, 640 births. Another statistic is that among Latinas, young women with Latino heritage, they're 12 times more likely to give birth as a teenager in our county.
Compared to Caucasians?
To Anglo or white folks,
12 to 1.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? That's
well, I think there are a lot of factors. I think particularly if your parents are recent immigrants, they're coming from a culture where teen pregnancy and birth is not unusual. Women in Latino culture, maybe in traditional culture, may not have the opportunity. It's not expected they'll go to college or get a career going, so they'll just be a mom. So start sooner. It seems better,
And I have heard of stories where they're encouraged to increase the family because it is such a wonderful experience, even if the mother or the soon-to-be mother isn't quite ready for it. So I have heard rumors on the street of those kinds of influences.
It's a really good point. And we don't deny that being a mother is a special, amazing thing when you're ready. That's the key. So we'll be addressing some of the factors. One other thing is if you follow the Catholic tradition, most methods of birth control are discouraged or prohibited, even though in fact most Catholic women use contraception. And then rates of abortion are lower among Latinos in general, and so that would push up their relative birth rate. Even if equal numbers of Anglo or white teens got pregnant, they're more likely to have an abortion.
Because the 12 to 1 is the actual birth rate, not the pregnancy rate.
Exactly.
Got it. So they could actually have the same pregnancy rate.
You could be close. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, let's skip to some of the myths about contraception. What are the myths that you've heard about?
Well,
about why
I teach a human sexuality class at a local college, and here there's still young people out there who believe things like douching or rinsing out your vagina after sex reduces your chance of getting
I've
pregnant.
heard of that one. I've heard of that
And
one.
unfortunately, it actually can have the opposite effect, where you put liquid in the vagina, it pushes semen or sperm up into the uterus and fallopian tubes and can increase your chance of getting
Oh,
pregnant.
no.
So you don't want to do that. And douching in general is not recommended. Your vagina takes care of itself and cleans itself, and you don't need to do that. It can actually mess up the balance of chemicals and so on in your vagina naturally. So douching does not help prevent pregnancy.
So that's definitely a myth.
Right. We
We don't
got
encourage
that
that. Is
one.
definitely false. That's
Yeah,
a myth for sure.
Yeah. Have you heard of any?
Well, one I've heard that's, I'm not sure if it's a myth, but I'm going to get pregnant or I'm going to get my partner pregnant, because I've heard it from male or female, to keep them, to make them closer to me, to make them love me. When that's not true. You know, I'm going to poke a hole through the condom, or I'm going to skip a pill.
Yikes.
That
Yeah.
just because I love them and I want them to be with me. And I've heard that not just from teenagers, but I've heard that from
Adults.
mature
Yeah.
adults.
Yeah.
Mature, I don't know.
Well, I think we can guess the effect of that with, we talked about the demands of pregnancy and child rearing a little bit. Imagine the stress it puts on a relationship. It doesn't draw people together. If anything, it can make it more difficult.
It can break them up.
Yeah.
It can cause strain on the relationship.
Yeah. And sometimes with I know some young men take off if their girlfriend gets pregnant, and they don't want to be a dad yet.
And how many times a year do we see some celebrity, in the limelight with somebody saying, "Oh, I'm pregnant by so and so"? I think it just happened recently to one of the little teeny boppers, and that's just because they think they're going to get the attention.
Right.
Right.
It's now to get attention
It's a
other
bit
ways.
selfish.
There's sports, there's art, there's all kinds of ways to be successful, and then to be a successful parent when you're ready is the goal for some people.
Yes, and I've heard of another one is that I'm just not going to get pregnant.
Right.
There's something about me. I have
You're
a
lucky.
protective barrier around me that says I'm not going to get
Right.
pregnant, which is especially amongst teenagers. I don't know if they're not facing reality, but they think I'm not going to get pregnant. And when in fact, 90% of the time, if a teenager is having sex throughout the year unprotected, there's a 90% chance that you will become pregnant. 90% chance.
Pretty high. Yeah.
That's
9 out of 10. Pretty likely. Yeah.
Don't risk it. It's just
No.
not worth it.
No, because you might hear, "Oh, I had a friend say I had sex and you can get pregnant." Well, maybe they were lucky, but you're exactly right on.
Or
the
I
90%.
heard that it took this family 2 years because they were trying. It's going to take me 2 years, so I'm just going to have sex once every now and then.
Right.
I'm never going to get pregnant.
Right.
Everybody's different. Every body's different.
Right.
So just because it took one situation to take a while, it doesn't mean that the majority of the time.
This is not
It's pretty
something to
easy.
gamble with,
No,
right?
no.
A child's life and quality of life and your life, a lot at stake. Just a quick couple of other things that some men have heard, maybe that Mountain Dew has a dye in it that can prevent sperm production and pregnancy. Not true. Tight underwear, hot tubs, anything that increases your body temperature actually can reduce a man's sperm production a little bit, but not enough to prevent pregnancy. So
The hot
yeah,
tubs, I've
yeah.
heard of that one. Or if I'm going to work with my laptop, I'm going to keep it on my lap
right.
because it can reduce my sperm count.
Right.
But doesn't mean that you're going to be infertile.
Right. Even with your laptop on your lap, sitting in a hot tub, well, that you'd be electrocuted first. But Mountain Dew, none of that, even combined, tight underwear, will prevent pregnancy.
So those are all
Yeah,
myths that we've just.
debunked. Another fear is I can't afford birth control.
Oh, that's a huge one.
And we've already talked about there's essentially free birth control available through
Free
the
birth
county
control.
healthcare centers, other clinics in the community. Under the Family Pack program, you get a little green, looks like a credit card, and for a year, and then you can renew it year to year. Either low income or young people, they don't count your parents' income or health insurance in order to make it confidential. No good reason not to get contraception.
And I've actually seen the process of somebody going through the interview to kind of to have that, at least at our healthcare centers, because before they come, they have a little financial interview to see what they can and can't afford. And especially when it's somebody young coming in, they're so intimidated, they're afraid. We try to make it comfortable for them.
That's great.
And let them be informed and know that this is going to be the cost. Either it's nothing or it's a little bit. Majority of the time, it's nothing because it's for their health.
Nice.
To keep them safe and free of STDs, STIs, and an unwanted pregnancy.
And this program alone has reduced the teen birth rate. So just to reiterate, if you're 12 or older, you said it before, but you can get any reproductive health service, including contraception, without your parental involvement. And while we encourage young people to talk to their parents and parents to talk to their kids, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you can still go to a clinic or doctor and say, I want birth control, I want to know about the Family Pack program, and get those services without your parents'
You can go by
knowledge.
yourself or with a friend or with a parent.
Right.
It's your choice.
And I've heard about parents who actually take their kids to a clinic. We were
Yeah,
talking
we
about
mentioned
this
that.
earlier. And how cool is that? I mean, I just think that's really ideal to have that open communication with your parents. And I do want to mention, I've heard of some parents who almost force their kid to go get birth control because they're afraid they'll get pregnant. I wouldn't encourage that. I think it's more open dialogue, discussion, not you're getting on birth control now. Because actually a lot of those kids aren't even having sex, and they're not, but then it creates a weird dynamic with the parent pushing it too
No
soon.
matter what the age of the person is, whether they're 12 or 18 or 30, it should be their choice.
Right.
So
Right.
forcing them or denying them
Right.
is not a good,
Not the way to go.
good
Yeah.
relationship builder.
Yeah. So I think if you have a good, open, quality relationship with your kids, you bring sex up as a topic. I think that a lot of parents are afraid or don't know how. There's so many opportunities. We call them teachable moments in the environment out there. The newspaper, pick up a newspaper or look at the online news or the TV news or radio. Sex-related stuff, abuse, pregnancy, whatever, comes up all the time, and or TV shows, dramas and comedies. There's always you say, "What do you think about that?" to your kid. You've opened the door to saying, "We can talk about this. It's not a taboo subject."
Even if you don't support it,
Right.
you want them to talk
Right,
about it.
right. Because then you can share your beliefs about it, but you've got to open the door. And a lot of parents say, "Well, I'm waiting for them to ask." And if you don't bring it up, they're not going to bring it up.
They're
right?
following your lead. Like everything else, lead by
Sure.
example, bring it up, talk to them, open that door.
Of course, of course. So I think we've covered, we would like to jump way ahead to our list of resources. We're going to move on to a little bit different segment in a minute, but I just wanted to show all of the county health department, healthcare centers where you can get the Family Pack program. We listed Planned Parenthood, Santa Barbara Neighborhood Clinic, some other resources. All of these places offer this low cost or even free birth control service, and it's not just birth control, it's all the reproductive health services.
And there are even more. If you're in the North County, there are several other ones. There are more. This is just a list that is a small list right now.
And as always, you can contact us. I think the website's up there at the top, or you can call me at my office, Scott, 681-5270. We'll help answer questions. We've got resources to help you talk to your kids if you want that. Whatever information you need, we'll help find. We've got statistics, as we've been sharing. So there's plenty out there to help.
That's so great.
Yeah. So because there's so much more good stuff, we're going to actually jump to one of our Cooking for Life segments and show that and kind of end the show with that. And then next time we'll be back and really get into detail on the available birth control methods, because some people think they're only condoms and diaphragms. And
There's a lot more than condoms and diaphragms.
or even the pill, but exactly, there's a lot more than that. So we'll be going into all of the detail. We'll show some examples, talk about how to use them, and really get into the meat of this. But we wanted to do this introduction first to get people sort of aware of some of the issues, the communication need.
Start thinking about it, start talking about it. Even if
Yeah.
you don't know all the details, open up that door, like you said. Just start communicating, whether it's with your parent, with your child, with your partner.
Grandparents, I know some older folks watch our show because we've heard from them, and grandparents might even have an easier time to talk to their grandchildren than parents do, who are so
Or an older
emotionally
sibling.
wrapped up. Siblings are a great resource, aunts and uncles, all the family. So let's go ahead and watch that Cooking for Life segment.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yummy.
Hi, today we're making mango chicken stir fry, which sounds good to me.
It does. I'm excited about this recipe.
It's very flavorful, low cost, low calorie, healthy,
as always.
easy.
Everything we do.
Absolutely. So we're going to start. It has chicken, skinless chicken, bell pepper. You can use red, green. We're using red. mango, some a little bit of pineapple juice for flavor, and some almonds and soy sauce for the sauce. So why don't you show us how you get started?
Well, first I'm starting with a few of the red peppers, and I love red bell peppers because they are just so much sweeter than the green bells. But I like them nice and thin, and then I'm just going to give them a cut right in half so that I don't have a big, red pepper hanging out of my mouth. It's unsightly, right?
And you don't want to dice it because then they're too little.
Then they're too little.
Yeah.
Boy, you read my mind these days, Scott. It's getting a
Psychic.
little scary. So I cooked the chicken a little bit earlier. So now I'm going to go ahead and just throw my peppers right on top because I'm going to throw everything else back into the skillet, give it a little stir fry, heat everything up. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to ask Scott to get me some mango. So what I did previously is I sliced vertically and then just once horizontally so that you can just kind of open it up like that. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah,
So you can
it's
close
like a flower. Yeah.
Open.
Cool. And
So if
I'll
you-
peel those out and be ready to throw them in. Because
That's
this
right.
you don't want to cook too much.
I don't
You'll
want
get
that
mushy,
to go in. Right, I don't want
Okay.
it to go in too early. All right, so let me get my fire going. And we want to go nice and hot for a stir fry. And you can put a little bit of olive oil in there. I'm just going to spray it with Pam. Either one of those works. Wait for your skillet to get nice and hot, and then we'll just throw it all in. And hence the name, stir fry. So now you're just going to stir that all together. Keep it moving so that you don't burn your peppers, but you want to get that skin softened up. So once it's a nice translucent color, but not mushy like Scott said. And before we put the mangoes in, we're going to put our sauce in to get a nice thick coating on it. All right, so while that sauce is thickening up, I'm going to measure out some almonds.
And what you tell me when you're ready to add the mangoes.
And I think we'll put the mangoes in right at the same time as the
almonds. We don't want any of it, I guess, to get mushy.
You want me to spoon that out? Oh, you're good. Look at you.
Well, I was just gonna kind of, I'm gonna wreck it. You better spoon it out there. I'm gonna mangle them.
But it was much more
mangoes.
interesting to watch with your fancy thumb trick.
Yeah. But less pretty.
Well, and speaking of pretty, isn't a stir fry a beautiful meal? This is something, it's easy, it's healthy, and you can serve it to company because it looks so gorgeous.
And it smells great, and I think it's gonna taste great.
All right, so down here, just right on the
Yeah, that's good.
cutting board? Okay.
Earlier we made some brown rice, and we really recommend brown rice because it's healthier, much better for you. So I'm going to scoop out my brown. It takes about an hour, 45 minutes to make the rice here. So we're going to make a nice big. This is larger than a single serving because we're going to share it here. Let me put in a little bit more then. So just a little bed of rice, and then Rose, you're going to add the mango chicken pepper almond mix there. Oh my gosh.
Now see, if I was Martha Stewart, I would be shaping this into the Eiffel Tower. But it's not really working for me, but
It looks beautiful.
bad.
Yeah, look at the colors, and of course the ultimate test is the taste. We'll find out. All right. Ooh, that looks good. Boy, look at that mango, peppers, brown rice. Like you said, with all these flavors, if brown rice isn't your favorite, you won't know it because of all these other good flavors. So here you go. Cheers.
cheers. Good sauce.
I can't talk. Oh my gosh.
Are you speechless?
This is probably my favorite thing we've made so far.
That is good. And for someone who didn't like mangoes before, that mango
know.
gives it a nice flavor.
Well, the mix
Okay, check
is
this out.
the blend of
I'm
things.
going full on mango here.
All right. It's so good.
No. It's very good. Very good. All right.
We'll save some for the crew here. Everyday Healthy Meals is the cookbook, choo choo choo, that we're using. You can order it online at the Network for Healthy California, or you can call me at my office, 681-5270, and I'll send you one for free.
There you go.
Healthy, low cost. Look how quickly we did it.
All right.
Great food. I'm going to have some more.
Me too. See you next time.